got an interesting subject. Jesus said, give to those who ask you. But it also says, if any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God, and it will come down. And wisdom will be easy to be entreated, soft and gentle, and able to discern the right things to do. I spent really about 3 years in India, and one place I went to live was in a girls' orphanage in Pune. Now, there was a high caste Hindu, a Brahmin caste woman, who went in England for an eye operation, and she saw George Muller's work amongst the orphans. She saw that he brought them to faith and then taught them how to pray for their food. They would have no food in the morning for their breakfast. They would give thanks for the food that they didn't have and ask the Lord to provide, and people would turn up with food. And that happening every day. She was so touched, she came to Christ. She went back, owned farmland, and she turned the farmland into an orphanage for poor girls who are orphans. Now, when you're a poor orphan girl in India, you're totally destitute. Who's going to marry you? People get married because of family ties, and they got no family. So the only they could do was marry a very poor man who wouldn't be able to marry anyone else. But she saw what George Muller did, and she taught the girls the same. And the girls got faith, came to Christ, prayed for the food, and the food came. So when they left and got married to a poor man, they blessed that man because they prayed food into the house, because the poor man didn't have much to provide for them. And they became very good wives. And then one day, some Australian missionaries heard about this orphanage and started sending money. Then all the girls were getting money, didn't have to pay for their food anymore, and they were having a bazaar on the Saturday, buying jewellery and expensive ornaments. This was told to me by a doctor who was in the room next to me, because she was there when the orphanage was set up, and she was telling me how it's changed. So when they went to get married, they were very unhappy because they were now living in a poorer circumstance than what they'd been used to, and they weren't used to praying in food. So the man was unhappy because they were unhappy, and they were both very poor. So the money from Australia destroyed the work. So we have to have wisdom. I have a neighbour who has a big bank account. He begs on the streets. And I was working with a young man, and he said, all my Albanian nationalities, he's Albanian, they're not working, they don't want to work, they get more money begging. And he said they got large houses in Albania. And there was one man who was arrested and taken to jail because he'd been in trouble before for begging. And they estimated that what he was earning per year was £70,000 because he never paid tax on it. He was looking bedraggled, and yet he had a house to live in. And our pastor's wife also took in a lady, gave her a new dress, gave her a bath the night and food and everything else. 2 days later, she found her begging in a poor dress again. She said, what happened to the dress I gave you? She said, well, I wouldn't get any money wearing that dress, you know. So, and I remember another story of a man who put a gold coin into a beggar's hand. And the beggar was honest, this is interesting, and found out where the man lived in a big mansion, you know. So we have to be really careful what we do, because you can destroy someone's faith. It's better to encourage people to ask. Jesus said, ask and you shall receive, that your joy may be full. So let's not hinder people's faith, but let's bring them to Christ. Let us teach them faith so that they may grow to know the Lord. For what you get from God is eternity. People need Jesus in their life, and they can do that by asking him in, then they can ask him to help them. That way you produce faith in them. Let us be people who help people to grow in faith. Pray for people, because God will then work in miracles in their lives. That's my desire, that the kingdom of God will expand. Be blessed.